right, let's go. Welcome to Momentum Monday. Today is December 3rd, 2023. Howard, are you enjoying the hot bull market we are
It's
in?
fun. Listen, it's fun. We've been on it. It happens a couple times a year. Gotta
Exactly.
make hay while the sun shines.
It's really hot a couple times a year, really healthy when almost everything works to the upside. Almost every breakout works. Almost every pullback in a strong stock leads to a bounce. The
Yeah.
interesting thing about last week is that while the mega caps kind of pulled back a little bit, and then the Qs going sideways, consolidating through time, we saw rotation into the more speculative parts of the market, like IWM,
ARK.
just to
Well,
2000.
ARK. Look at Coinbase and ARK.
Exactly. We'll get to them. Big breakout on Friday, which was the first day of the new month, December 1st. Big volume breakout, back above the 200-day moving average. And the second that happened, we saw some huge moves in speculative, highly shorted names like UPST, and before that it was a firm. They kind of related in a way.
Yeah.
So big,
Yeah, the fintechs are rallying. I talked about
big breakout.
Square.
Obviously,
Yeah. Do they have earnings? Yeah, they're making money. I mean,
yeah, they're making money. I mean, they expect to make money. They expected to make money next year, I guess. Not yet.
yeah. Well, it's having that run. It better. This thing will be back at 10. But yeah, it's having
Most
it's
likely, yeah. Most of those moves are just short term, but in the short term, they can go 300-400%. As we saw with Carvana earlier this year, at some point it was up. What was up? And now it's starting to actually go up again. It was up, what, 12 times?
yeah. I mean, but it's
Crazy.
ARK and Coin cover, pretty much everything you didn't know, right? Coinbase is the poster child of degenerate economy. It's in my DGen ETF. It's the best or the worst. If you want to invest in the US in crypto, it's the gold standard right now. And if you look at the CEO, Brian, he took on the SEC, took on the culture wars, is coming out the strongest from going anti trend and just demanding his employees not talk politics, and then going against the SEC, and not clean by any measure. You can still trade Dogecoin there, and you can't buy a Bitcoin ETF. So they're getting away with relative financial murder compared to everybody else. But it's the only game in town, and we loved it. I liked it in the 50s when it got above the Gensler price. People buying it here at 30 billion. Good luck. I'm sure it's cheap if wallets become a thing. And But ARK would be the other one, ARKK, like literally the poster child for unprofitable tech. And it's like 2 weeks it had, sorry, my dog's barking. 2 weeks it's up, I don't know, 40%. So you don't have to get cute. You can buy these ETFs, a basket of ETFs, rather than picking one.
That's a good
Unprofitable.
point. That the groups that are the most sensitive to interest rates, they've really outperformed in the past couple
Yeah,
weeks or so, like regional banks and
yeah. I mean, even
home builders. Home builders, they're back near multi-year highs. Look at this. After a pretty, deep pullback from 84 to 68. That's like in points. That's like 20% pullback, and they're back near all-time highs. Are you okay? And so anytime there is a strong bull market in stocks, typically we see a pullback either in interest rates or in the US dollar. And we kind of seeing this. I mean, the 10-year rate, they pulled back from 5% down to 4.2, which has definitely helped a lot in November for stocks to rally. And then
Yeah,
we're also seeing a in the same time a pullback in the US dollar, and maybe the market, all those rallying in crypto related stocks, in miners like Mara and Riot and Coinbase and Bitcoin in general, back above 40,000. Maybe the market is in gold also. Let's not forget gold is also breaking out and rallying. Maybe the market is saying the only move that the US government has, being so highly indebted, is to slowly debase the currency, and people are diversifying into other areas of the market where the government cannot really dilute them as
yeah,
much, because all of us are shareholder of of the USA, right? And USA is like a corporation; they can dilute their shareholders.
yeah.
So
The only move left, I would be wary of people without staring at the screens every day like you and sometimes me. Remember what people are doing. Like the reason it's not like I like Kathy Woods or believe in anything she's doing, but to go pick. There's now enough vehicles for speculation, both as entertainment and as just pure, hopping aboard where you don't have to study individual stocks. That ARC is the poster child right now for unprofitable tech, even though she probably has some profitable companies in there, both in biotech and genomics. And that Coinbase is, as I said, when it was 50, is the purest play that you can get on crypto, right? Why, if you don't want to store your crypto yourself, then the only way to speculate in crypto is to buy Coinbase, because you get all the added benefits and leverage from the company, its brains, its venture portfolio, it's what it's charging other people to do that for. And so I would urge people. I mean, there is no resistance on these things, right? They were like, in essence, the stock's at all-time highs, because anybody who wanted to sell that when it went public sold, right? And anybody who panicked sold when Gensler and the SEC sued. So the company is in uncharted territory. It's got the SEC tailwinds. It's got, like you just said, a U.S. government that is in panic mode and trying to do everything it can to ease uh, ease inflation without causing a dollar crash. So they're going to do everything they can to try and gently bring down rates. That all is the benefit of Bitcoin and Coinbase. But you can see how different companies are managed. Robinhood is completely underperformed. If you wanted to play a spec catch up, and I
yeah,
put some, it's not all. This is where I said it's not all the same, and you can see the mistakes that Robinhood made. I've been talking about it for a year, which is they kowtowed to the SEC. They hired like crazy. They didn't diversify. They did no venture investing. Um, and you can see Coinbase 30 billion and Robinhood at I don't know, 7 billion.
none of them.
But it could be a spec catch up,
Yeah,
especially if they
might be right.
deliver. But again, they haven't executed in the past. But if you're going to speculate, I guess there could be a play there. I tried some, but I had a great week in software with Elastic and a bunch of other ones that worked. I would just urge people that, like, the trade was made. I'm not saying Elastic won't go higher and software won't go higher, because the software companies have the most leverage to get profitable, because they can fire people and spend less. And the software that's mission critical is not going to be a problem for companies that aren't public. For software companies that aren't public right now, be careful. So you can see Cloudflare, which I've been bullish on. It's mission critical, right? StockTwits use it. All the biggest companies use Cloudflare, and they're profitable. So it's not cheap, but they've turned the corner to profitability, as you can see, and they've gotten their lesson. So they're not going to run to old all-time highs because of just valuations, right, and higher interest rates. So for all the talk of rates dipping, mortgage rates are still over 7%. They were, 2 to 3% a year and a half ago. Could I go through some charts item that I had open?
Yeah, do you want to share?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
let's go ahead. All right,
Thanks,
share.
buddy. Thanks. How's life in San Diego?
It's pretty good. No complaints.
I'm going to be in San Francisco for my first time in forever this week.
San Francisco, okay.
Uh, yeah, that could be a sign that just a sign on its own that we are back. Okay, so I'm screen sharing, right?
Yeah, we can see your Zoom, so you can just, what are you trying to show?
Let's
Okay,
look at you talked about gold. So JC and I have been chatting about this. It's since broken out. I'm going to try and find a better chart. Hang on. Here we are, spot gold. You can see here it's poor man's Bitcoin, right? Doesn't have the same leverage or more supply, more ways to train it, more ways to trade it. Like you can grab gold in a thousand different ways. But at the same time, do you hear anybody talking about it? And because it's all Bitcoin, Coinbase, tech, that is a serious breakout. And I think it's really going up this weekend. So that could be a trade for, I'm long, just because you can't pass up that trade. And your stop's probably below 1800, but that could really run. And we are in a commodity kind of cycle. So that's one. The yield, which we talked about, it has pulled in, but it's now coming into support, and it's not like the government's going to cut rates. There's no reason to cut rates. Market's running, and no one's complaining per se, right? Um, so that's just good, for a risk on scenario. I think what you need to like both a bullish and something to be careful about short term is, as Charlie points out, um, we really flipped from a bearish kind of sentiment to a bullish sentiment. And the time to have gotten bullish was, seasonally when we were talking about a month ago when nobody was bullish and stuff was just starting to break out, led by the fangs. And now you've just seen this move. Now, as Charlie said, this is the largest 4-week improvement in sentiment since March, April 2009. So that's a pretty interesting data point to put on top of that, saying don't rush to sell. If you've got some gains, you want to lock them in, fine. But it's been a great year. But I know it sounds crazy, but don't rush to sell because the last time you got this kind of big signal was like the bottom of a major bottom. So I thought that one was interesting from Charlie. TLT we talked about is coming into resistance. Larry's great at hostile charts. And then I think we talked about this earlier. And Straza does a great job. This best month ever for crappy stocks. Right. And I hate saying the word crappy stocks. There's some great companies in there, but
best month in 30 years.
yeah, which means but on top of but on top of speculative stocks having like a plus 30% month, right? So best month ever for spec. So now remember how her best month ever, and she's still down 70% from all-time highs. So just remember where we came, but remember these can run, right? She's a momentum player. She's not selling, she's buying. So it's not like she's running and trimming here. So if you have some good games, maybe move up your stops and try and enjoy. I gotta think we have a pullback here because everybody's reacting like, oh, nothing can bring down this market, right? All news is good news right now. War is good, everything's good, anti-Semitism's good. So keep an eye on that. And then I thought this was great, even though he's not a fundamentalist. Ryan Dietrich, who's at Carson running research, is always just very, clear. Most people just didn't really do the work on the CHIPS Act. And I think he makes a good point about not all fiscal policy has to be a bad thing. We make fun of the government all the time. A year or two later, after the CHIPS Act, and guess where all the investment went? A high margin American manufacturing, which is, what chips are, and it's really our IP, could really pay off, right? And as I've talked about, I'm going to let you take back over. Or actually, I'm going to do one more, Ivan, and then I'll let you take it back over.
Okay.
Semiconductors are the new market, right? They go in everything. They go in our phones, they go into drones, they go into machines, they go into your fridge, they go into everything you touch, including now robots and your cars. And so they're pervasive. So it's accelerating chips. And so the US invested the CHIPS Act, it's as dumb as we think our politicians are, that investment made that flip in manufacturing might have come at the right time. There's something that we created, me and Riley, the price and popularity, which kind of matches. You've probably seen it, Ivan, which matches highest relative strength stocks with lowest, followers, which I think is my favorite thing to do. You can see Friday we had 208 new highs and 8 new lows. So if you're not invested at this moment, you're just doing things wrong. And so it doesn't mean to run out tomorrow and buy, but if you watch this every day over 6 months, you will really get a feel for, when to be in the market. And so for the last 6 weeks, this has just been printing just incredibly great numbers. One thing I look for here is we reverse jam it so that we find the highest price relative strength stocks and match it with the lowest followers, because that's what we feel that have the most potential, because no one's heard of it, and those are the great ones that run. So it's a great list. It's called Popular Price, but just hit me up. Riley puts this together, and an IPO Birkenstock, and this is another one you talked about, a firm, and Coinbase. So these things have been showing up on these lists for a while. Pinduoduo, this is like probably the best Chinese
Tencent. Only
start.
one.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
UiPath, I started doing a little work on. They just turned profitable. But you can see profitable software is what's working the best. Okay. I'll let you take it back.
Definitely. So how are you playing? Let me see. Are you still sharing?
I stopped share.
How are you playing the semiconductor rally?
SMH, really I'm QQQ and XLK, so I'm probably
no individual stocks like Nvidia or AMD or any of the other cheap names.
I have no edge. I think
no.
From I was talking to my friend Michael Perek, who ran Goldman Research, and it's just NVIDIA has 80% of this AI market, and so it's hard not to. I think if you own SMH, you own NVIDIA, but anytime you see a 20% drop in NVIDIA, if you want to own individual stocks, I mean, when it owns 80% of something in the next 2 years, the only benefactors of AI are going to be the chip companies like NVIDIA, and everybody's chasing them by weakness. I don't know if I would chase strength, but it's down 10% off all-time highs on great numbers. I mean, if you're going to buy it and you've been waiting,
everyone's waiting on that pullback for the 50-day.
So this stock can move $100 in 2 days. So it's like, it's compared to Tesla, what everybody owns. I know everybody's scared to own NVIDIA because they can't touch it, they can't feel it, they don't use AI. Whereas Tesla, it's just like you go to Tesla board and you mention that maybe it's overvalued, and you get hammered by 1,000 people. So everybody that wants to own Tesla owns it. So Rambus is another one. Yeah, AVGO. The other one, Ivan, is a Dutch company, ASML, which makes
which
is an incredible company which makes the equipment that makes the chips.
Yeah.
Building size type production. So again, I have no edge when it comes to semiconductors. So other than NVIDIA, where I can call my friends and know that they own the chip, they own the AI market. Like I said, 80% of AI is coming through NVIDIA. And then you have crypto coming through NVIDIA chips, and you have gaming coming through NVIDIA. The biggest markets are coming through NVIDIA, Broadcom, because Broadcom's working with Google. So that's pretty much all I got. That's a lot of ideas. And I
Definitely.
still think you got to stick with profitable companies. The tease is, you go with Kathy Woods here, but I think it's the profitable companies because it's not like we're in a low interest rate environment. You're going to still have to stick with companies. They're going to have a catalyst because there's no international growth, right? You've got to be growing off a base that's, kind of a US based type, you know, scenario, because opening up other markets is just not going to be the same as it was during the roaring 2010s.
Yeah, you make a good point. And up until last week, I was pretty relatively heavy software since this has been the strongest
Yeah.
industry. And then last week I added some exposure into small caps via TNA, about that on Wednesday, and then DPST about that on Thursday, regional banks.
Wow.
So that's some
Three
exposure.
times regional banks. That's a big move.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I went for a little bit like more speculative area. I added some more
Yeah.
speculation in the portfolio, but the way I approach it, when it has a big
Yeah.
day, it goes up a lot, like 3, 4 times my initial risk. I just proactively take profits. So
Yeah.
I remove my risk. So it's not for everyone. We're talking about short-term speculation. We're not talking about
No, and
long.
you're in front of your computer all day. So you know all these tickers and how they trade. But yeah, the three-time leverage stuff, when you're just guess what? All the hedge funds that are trailing the QQQ are going to be pulling these tricks over the last month. So it's going to be a lot of interesting volatility this month. Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
heart.
There's something for everybody. I mean, I think the
Okay.
interesting this week will be does does is there a pullback or is there continued follow through?
Well, we're already
Uh,
seeing a little pullback in mega caps, right? Obviously, still above their rising 20, and there might be like they're playing the role of a source of liquidity as people are looking for more speculative names, and we're seeing, I mean, as we saw UPST on Friday and before that the forum and some of the other ones like Yonq, all those that are 30-40% of the float is short and now just curling up near their 200-day moving average and just starting to move. And they can make really big moves. I mean, they can go 10-20% in a day. Um, and
yeah,
they're
and then
super liquid.
so super liquid. The other ones that I still think are interesting are defense, AVAV. All you hear all day is drones. Go look at it on a monthly. Again, not cheap, but maybe look at the wild volatility since 2018 from 120 to 40 back to 140 back to 50. Um, just a scary stock to own.
Yeah,
Um,
but earnings has improved substantially. I mean, look at it.
well, it was volatile, so now it's the last 4 years. But again, can you trust it? If you can trust it, and I think drones have proven to be whether the Arabs are using them or the Israelis are using or Americans are using. That's all you hear right now. This war is being fought a lot by drones, and obviously, um, that's an incredible base,
Yeah, it is.
right?
The only issue, the only drawback is it's not very liquid, Howard. So it's
I'm saying you have to position size this right. It's a $4 billion company, but it's a proxy for this trend that I believe in, which is defense. It's been around a long time. Is it an Israeli company? No, it's Virginia. I
I
said
think
Virginia is
it's
the new Stanford.
actually. So if you were still running Wall
You
Street,
have to be long this. You have to be long this. You have to be long Taser. Like I said, if I was going to have a fund, and I do in a sense my own money, and I'm too conservative, but you have to be long the Qs or the XLK, and then like I've been doing the last month, like a few times a year when the market's good, you put on some stock positions and you pad your returns. But if you're going to differentiate yourself at all, right, it's very hard to beat the market. So pretty much closet index, and then if you own three or four different stocks that you really directionally believe in big industries, and I've been saying, you know, then it's just a way to at least participate in this. And remember, you can own with direct indexing, like one of my companies, Freck.com, you can direct index, pull 10 companies out of that, right? So you can direct index the XLK, remove 10 of the stocks that you hate, or the S&P, and remove 10 of the stocks you hate, and add 10 stocks that you like, right? And you're basically closet indexing and just adding a little, do it yourself type of thing. But I think you got to have defense. I think you have to have, and so Palantir is one that I own. I love Elastic just because they're the search open source play. And I know that StockTwits lives on the same with Cloudflare, right? I know that the products that we use and don't utilize well, but know that the products are really powerful underneath them. So again, as long as they're profitable and they're growing and they're products that you understand and use, I mean, you can add a few companies to your name. But those are the ones I continually look at. And it is interesting that crypto, Bitcoin at 40,000, Solana at 60, Ethereum creeping back up to yearly highs. Those seem to be the three big ones. And the world is going to use some blockchains. They're not going to have thousands of them, but there could be tens of them. And it seems like Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Solana are the three big ones, kind of like the fangs of early crypto. So I don't have an acronym for them, but I guess it's SEB or ESB or BSE, whatever it is. But those are the three. Um, Anyways, those are the ones that I'm watching, but I don't really go beyond that because I think gives you enough leverage to kind of own that trend. All right, so have a great week, Ive.
All right. Thank you, Howard. See you next
See
week.
you, everybody.
Bye.